Hello, welcome, and welcome back to Venus Rising Tarot. My name is Venus Rising, and today's pick a card reading is all about your year for 2021. So, this is a fairly in depth reading. We're going to get into what's messages and what advice Spirit has for you for your year ahead. So, today we have three piles. So, I'll do a close up of the crystals, lead you through a guided meditation, and then you can jump to your reading in the timestamp below. Please, as always, use your intuition to pick your pile and not your physical eye, as that will help you find the message that is meant for you. Okay, so we have this gorgeous stone for pile number one. This is the stone for pile number two. And this is the stone for pile number three. So to begin your meditation, please make sure you're sitting in a comfortable seat or lying down, and just take a moment, and then you're going to breathe in slowly through your nose for 5. Hold your breath for 2, and exhale through your mouth for 5. And again, so you're going to breathe in for 5. Hold for 2. And exhale for 5. And last time, breathe in for 5. Hold for 2. And exhale for 5. So when you're ready, take your time and pick your pile that most resonates with you, and I will see you at your reading. Hello, my angels that picked pile number 1. Welcome to your reading. You picked this gorgeous stone. So without further ado, we're going to get into it. So for your overall energy of the year, you have the Magician, which is quite beautiful energy to have. The Magician is like known as the master manifester. I really see for you what's happening in 2021 and what's guiding and what it's really calling you to do is to take charge, because like the sky's the limit for you guys, in all honesty. So it's like I would take sort of whatever ideas that pop into your mind as like guidance from your guides, and to really just like see it through, because this energy feels so supportive, and your guides, like your ancestors or spirit itself is really working with you this year. So I would, take note of every sort of idea that you have. This very much feels like you've been having a lot of thoughts like coming into your head of things that you maybe should try or do or learn or explore. I feel like this year is also going to be very characterized or strongly characterized by you stepping outside of your comfort zone and doing things that you may not have typically done before, but in a lot of cases for a lot of you, like have always been interested in, and maybe that fear sort of held you back. But what you're really called to be doing this year, and what this like very supportive energy is calling you to do this year, is to just go for it. Because like, even if, you know, like the things that you do don't pan out the way that you expect, like every single like thought and idea that you're having, you know, is like being planted to help guide you somewhere. You know, so if you're being called to try something that's particularly like outside of your comfort zone, and something that you may not like be doing or have done before, then, you know, like, even if this isn't going to be your new career or your new passion project, the skills that it's teaching you and the skills of trying is really going to lead you to a beautiful place. And it feels like with the Magician here, like it's building a foundation. Like I'm seeing it's like a foundation being laid brick by brick, and this is very much like the energy that you're in for your 2021, which just feels absolutely beautiful. So let's see what else we have for you. Again, I pre-shuffled these, so I actually have not seen any of the cards. So you have the Four of Swords. Oh. The Four of Swords. The Five of Wands. The Five of Swords in reverse. Yet a lot of cards come out, group number one. The King of Cups in reverse. The Four of Cups in reverse. Let me just rearrange everything so that you can see all your cards. And then you have the Three of Cups also in reverse. I have a lot of reversals. The Two of Cups in reverse. We are running out of room. Just want to make sure you guys can see. And then we have the Six of Wands with the Fool. Okay. So you have a lot coming out for you guys for this year. Right. So, as we were saying, so with the Five of Wands and the Four of Swords, this very much feels like energy that you're coming out of to start out the year. So with the Five of Wands and the Four of Swords, you know, it feels like there have been some sort of like mental unrest for you, pile number one. You know, that could either be, you know, struggling with like mental health, feelings of like loneliness, or even just sort of like fatigue and extreme apathy, which is understandable given the year of 2020. But this feels like the energy that you're starting off your year with. And with the like Five of Swords, it feels like you are going to be at least the energy that you're heading in right now. So energy is fluid, so I'm reading sort of like where the energy that you are, and sort of like what messages has like Spirit has for you for the year. You're making an effort to come out of that. So, you know, like what I'm seeing like these reversals as is that like you are being like with the Magician, you are being very, very like well supported by Spirit, and Spirit has like a lot sort of like planned for you this year, but it's really up to you whether or not you're going to take it, right? So like that's what I feel like the reversals of, because this is sort of like a potential outcome for you for 2021. So it's really like with the Five of Swords in reverse, I feel like you are coming sort of like, are making an effort and a strong attempt to come out of the Four and the Five of Wands. And obviously, like if you're actually, and you resonate with being in a state of like mental unrest or unease, then you will know that like it's not always going to be picture perfect, and it's not always going to be very easy to come out of that state. But it is about like making the effort, and like as I always like to say, there are going to be good days and bad days, right? Like it's not just going to be like one day you wake up and you're like, yes, I am out of it, like I am no longer, or like in this like mental sort of like flux, like I'm just, you know, ready to move on, to no longer be in the state. Like I think it's very much like you are making the effort, because with the Four of Cups here, it feels like you're just tired of feeling like you're missing out, right? Like it doesn't, it feels like you are just tired of like missing out and being in that energy of, you know, not really being sure what's going on. And it feels like you've had a lot of like blocks in your throat chakra, because I'm having like difficulty getting this message out for you. So it feels like you've had a lot of difficulty maybe communicating how you feel about situations, and even like not even externally, but even internally with yourself, and that dialogue that we have with ourselves. You know, about like what is it that you want, and like what is it that you're trying to achieve here. And that's what the Magician energy to sort of like frame the year for you is really talking to you about. Is like, what are you trying to achieve? Because you are supported in doing it, and right now Spirit wants to send you on a path so that you can build the foundations to achieve whatever it is that you want. This very much like feels career orientated, and feels like very like financial, so it could be very much like around like savings goals and diversifying your streams of income. And no, I'm like, you know, if you are in like a job or starting off a career, no longer being sort of like fully dependent on that one paycheck, whether like with that one company to sort of like satiate your financial needs, or to be your only source of income. So I really see like this year, and what Spirit is like trying to help you do is to build those like many streams of income, whether or not that's like you getting into investment, you starting your own business, which I'm hearing for a lot of you. You guys are like really contemplating it, and you are being guided to do it. So what I'm not saying, and what's not coming through clearly here, is the success of the business. Like I'm going to do a career reading at a later date, and we can get into that. But what like Spirit is asking you to do, and what Spirit's really like pushing for, is for you to go for it, because in doing that process, so like somebody may want to start like a swimwear business, or I'm hearing like a lot to do with like illustration and books. Someone may also want to do something, you know, like bridging the gap. So I'm seeing a lot of like apps, like tech development. So these are just things that are really prominent energy. Like it can literally be like whatever, my darling, like it's whatever is in your mind right now. And like Spirit is very much like planting these ideas so that like it's about trying, right? Because I feel like what happens to you a lot, pile number one, is that you get caught up in maybe imposter syndrome. If you're familiar with that topic, so that's like, you know, like not feeling like you belong in a space, or you know, like you give up before you even try, right? Because you think that things need to be perfect before you start. And there is no perfect start. There's just a start, right? And like, I think because we're in, you know, the age of like social media and people sharing like literally every single aspect, and you know, even with the YouTube community where we're seeing a lot of like hit like content creators, but you have to keep in mind like these people have been in the game a really long time. They started when YouTube wasn't, you know, like was still young, and they started at the beginning of like influencership, you know, like becoming a viable option for people to pursue their passions and also make a steady income for themselves. And then what we're seeing is years of like honing and crafting. So what you're being called to do is just start, because even if like this first initial venture doesn't pan out, the skills that you learn, it's going to help you, right? Like I know for me, like, because I've always been interested in doing like a lot of things, and like I like learning about a lot of things, and not every single thing that I've learned about, like I thought like I would have a career in or do. Like I remember in school we had a lot of like video projects, and I would always get stuck being like editor, right? And it's editing is not something that I like, but in a lot of my roles where I've had to, you know, like work in smaller organizations, and even in my own projects, because I have those skills, it's helped it and helped me, and it's become a lot easier to do things. So like I don't have to, you know, learn that skill at a later date, because I have the foundation. And then like if you get to a position, or when you get to a position where you want to pursue it further, then you can outsource that work, but then you'll have that understanding, right? And I really think that spirit, I'm really feeling for you that spirit is telling you that it's really about building that understanding, that knowledge, and like strengthening your skills, because like it will help you further down the road, and it will either help your business become a success, or it'll help you when you're dealing with people in the future and you're looking to hire their people or expand your efforts. And then so you know, like if people are going to take advantage of you, or if people are going to try to take advantage of you, because you have that knowledge of either doing your own, like I'm hearing someone's going to learn how to balance their own books, and like use a software like Intuit or like Bookkeeper or something like that. And like because you have that like baseline knowledge, then you'll know like if somebody's telling you like a load of garbage, basically. So that's what like that's what I'm really feeling for you. And with the Six of Wands, like it's really, Spirit is calling on you to sort of like lead the charge and to go forward with this effort, because you are being so supported. It's really sort of that push to be like, okay, we're working with you. This isn't something that Spirit does not want you to like rush into it. You know what I mean? Like Spirit really wants you to be very like intentional with it. Spirit wants you to be slow with this energy, right? Which is why you have a lot of reversals. Like it's about slowing you down as well, because I also feel for some of you, you may have a tendency to just go 0 to 10,000 real quick, and that's not a sustainable way to do anything. I know it's hard sometimes because a lot of my big three placements are all cardinal signs. So I'm like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it all full out. Like, you can't stop me. But Spirit wants you to be very intentional, because what you are being called to do this year is to learn and build the skill sets, because this is about building a foundation. And I'm feeling like this is like in numerology, like a 3-year for you. So I would like look into that. Like I'm really feeling like the energy of the 3, so you may be seeing like a lot of repeating 3s. Please take that as confirmation and try and remember what you're thinking about when you see like repeating 3s. But also look into like the numerological like meaning of 3 for you. Okay, so with the King of Cups in reverse, as well as the sort of 7 of Wands and the 3 of Cups, I'm just going to read the entire bottom row actually in one go. So with the King of Cups in reverse, you are really, really, really being called to listen to your intuition. Like this is what this spread is about. Like it's Spirit is literally there to support you, and I feel like very much like hands are open. I'm just really waiting for you to like fall in. It's really trusting your intuition and having you like work into your heart space, right? Because with the 3 of Cups and the 2 of Cups here, like this is very much feeling like things that are divinely ordained, and like very much like your soul family, and you will be building a community and become a part of a community that is a part of your larger soul purpose and life purpose. by pursuing this and by really taking to heart the energy of the magician in this year. So like what you are being called to do is like, it's really just to start, because it's going to introduce you to many different people if you felt, sort of isolated, and that you've not necessarily, or if you're new to a community, like I'm hearing this could be with someone's like gender or sexual, like being, and having discovered those things about themselves, and like being able to dive deeper into that on the basis of these ideas and on the basis of wanting to learn more. But even in sort of like, if you've like learned some, it's very much feeling like, because you've learned these things about yourself and you're making an effort to do or pursue these like passion projects. And for some of you, the passion project could just be learning more about the things that you've learned about yourself, whatever that may be for you. And then that is going to put you in a position to be with a community of people who are, like have similar identities to you, but are on very like similar journeys. So like very much, very, very, very much feel like this is just very beautiful energy with you. And the Seven of Wands is predicting, like some difficulty, like the extent, not really getting like a full reading on, but we'll see, because I have oracle cards for you, what they say. But it's really just sort of reminding you that it's not all going to be like a smooth sailing, right? And that is a part of the learning process as well, and not to get discouraged just because something doesn't come easily to you, and just because you've like started something and you don't go viral overnight. Like, it's really asking you to start because you are this is the year that you are being pushed to build that foundation so that you can reap the rewards of like your manifestations at a later date. Like, this very much feels like preparation energy. So what I would also, like do is write down every sort of like idea that comes to your head, and then build a plan around it. And like that's the thing. And Spirit doesn't care if like, Spirit gives you 50 messages and you write a plan for all 50, because it's really asking you to be intentional. Okay, it's like, what happened? Like, what are the different steps? What are the different skills that I need to learn so that maybe like, the swimsuit business or the illustration or the app doesn't happen this year, but what do I need to do so that like in a year's time or further down the road, like you have that option to do it because you have taken the time to learn those skills. And then with sort of like the Fool here to sort of signify how you're going to end the year. So it's very supportive energy. So the Fool is the beginning of the tarot, and the Magician is the 1, right? So your supportive energy is the 1, and it's like the Fool, and sequentially like this is 0 and the Magician is 1. So it's very much like Spirit wants to get you to your new beginning so that you can really hit next year 2022 in that energy. Like, this is the guiding energy, because I'm really seeing it as like the Fool is the Magician rather is the Fool's higher self, right? So like this is the energy that Spirit's trying to get you into. Like, the Fool is really just like the beginning of the tarot. Like, it's very young energy, and like this year is calling on you to start a new chapter, but it's one that's filled with sort of like courage. And I feel like by stepping into yourself in this way, and by doing all of these learnings and these like skills, what's going to happen for you is that you're not going to care as much, right? So the imposter syndrome that we talked about, that stop-start, like it won't be as much of a mental block for you if you really commit to this path this year, right? And as I mentioned, like the reversals here indicate like this is like a very strong potential for you because you are being called to do it. But Spirit also recognizes that like you may not do it, but this is like the Spirit's basically saying do it. Spirit knows that you may or may not, given that you're coming into the year with this sort of energy, but you are, please, pile number one, just please do it. Like that's a really strong message I'm getting for you. It's like, just please do it, because you are being so called to do it, because ending the year in like the Fool energy, and you see like in this depiction, the Fool's about to step off the cliff, and like some may see this as a wise move, but it's about trusting that no matter which path that you choose to walk, that you will end up in the right path. So the Fool for this energy is very much signifying that you are going to be in trust of yourself and spirit and the messages that you have, because you know that no matter which path you walk, like it is all for your divine good, and like you will go off of a cliff even if people can't see the rest of this card, right? And it's purposely cropped so we don't see what happens after that person like steps off the cliff, right? There could be another step underneath that, but the Fool is going into this walk with the energy of like, I know I am supported, I know that there are no wrong paths, each path teaches me something, and that's a very, very powerful for you guys to be in for this year, and I'm very excited for you. All right, so let's see. Oh, there are more cards. No, they're not. Let's see what your light worker card. So the ever unfolding road. You see, and I swear I do not look at these cards until I do the reading. The ever unfolding rose cracked open. It's happening for you, not to you. Let's see if we can bring this into focus. Will you cooperate with me? And that's very much like the energy of the Fool that we just talked about, right? Like you are like sitting in this very beautiful energy, or being called to sit in this very beautiful energy of learning, and to trust, because in learning there is trial and error, and you're not like, just because someone sets out a curriculum does not mean that that's like what you will learn and what you will get out of it, but it's those tangential skills, right? And that tangential like knowledge, and like every sort of thing is working to support you. I love when messages just come together. And then for your Moonology, new moon in Virgo, a time to give rather than take. So what I'm feeling for you, because I also pulled these as sort of timing cards, so I would look at, we're also going to do some like important astrological seasons for you this year. Pull those at the end of this reading, but with the time to give rather than take, I am very much sensing for you, my dears, that this year is calling to give yourself, right? And that can be scary, right? Especially if you're coming out of this age of, or this thing, this energy of being like in mental unrest and like not really being sure, but you're being called to give of yourself in very like profound ways, to lead you to this Fool energy, to crack you open, because everything that is happening to you this year is for you. That is the overwhelming energy. I just want to read you guys because I feel like it's going to be useful. I'm just going to grab my book to read the full message for the ever unfolding rose, just because it's so beautiful, and I just like this spirit's calling on me to deliver that message for you guys. Wow. And like I literally opened the page right to it. So the challenge, so the ever unfolding rose cracked open, it's happening for you, not to you. The challenge of life is to keep your heart open when you most want to close it, to let life crack you open, to open through hurt and loss, to allow what is falling away to fall away. Being human is a courageous act. A life well lived is full of losses and tragedies, as much as triumphs and adventures. Wherever you find yourself at the moment, life is coaxing you to keep your heart open, no matter how much it hurts, to continually unfold, to let life crack you open. Perhaps you are going through a difficult time right now. Instead of cursing the difficulty, see it as a blessing to open yourself up to the truth that perhaps, as hard as it may be, life is happening for you, not to you. And one day, in the not too distant future, you may just bless the thing that broke you down and cracked you open because the world needs you open. Now is the time to go gently, to treat yourself like a tender, sweet baby, to wrap yourself in a blanket and trust that the mother has you cradled in her arms. The seas may not all be smooth sailing, but you are safe and you are held. One day, not too far from today, you will look back at the transformation and be blown away by the poetry of life. Everything is going to be okay. Wow. If that is not like a confirmation of the message that we just shared with you and it just went on the journey of exploring, I don't know what is. That would be a beautiful place to end your reading. But we have two love messages for the year. Just brief, because I wasn't getting like love was a strong energy for you. But we will explore it. So we have reconciliation, upright. Someone from your past is returning to your life and calling in your soulmate. Your prayers, affirmations, and visualizations help bring you together. So what I'm getting from your love messages are, the reason calling in your soulmate is in reverse is because like you being able to do this very much depends on you getting out of this current energy, of like mental unrest, of, like not really being able to communicate your needs and your wants and your desires and your aspirations, like either externally or internally. So it all really depends on you doing this journey of getting you to the Fool and like being guided by your higher self, the spirit of the magician. So I see this twofold. So calling in your soulmate, referring to your soul family, which we talked about in your reading with the 3 of Cups in reverse and the 2 of Cups in reverse. And I feel like you will meet, you have the potential to meet with a soulmate from a past life. I don't feel like reconciliation is talking about like an ex in this life. I'm very much getting like past life energy. So that's why I'm broadening it to your soul family who you've traveled through like different lives to. If you're unsure, a fun thing that Pattern has, the app Pattern, but like they are trying to monetize, which is making me sad. But I digress, is like you can put up your like birth chart and then compare it with somebody. Like I found it very beautiful when I've like realized that people who I like was naturally drawn to and really wanted to make a part of my life, like we have gone through past lives together, whether that be as friends, as family, or as lovers. Or some of my excuse me, not sure if you heard that, but some of my good friends, like we were lovers in a past life and we find that like hilarious, but like now we're just good friends. But like this is what the energy that I'm getting for you for your love life. It's not coming through too strongly, and of course that can change, but a lot of it really depends on you coming out of this energy that you're in right now and going on this journey. Okay, so to close off your reading, my dear, I'm going to pull some. Okay, we'll get these and see what they say. Oh, so we have Gemini, Pisces, and Scorpio. So these, what I'm getting for these is just sort of like a heads up from Spirit to really pay attention to the signs and what's happening to you in these seasons. So Pisces season, we're almost out of Capricorn, right? Like Capricorn is at sort of like end of Jan, and then we move into Aquarius. So Pisces season, starts at the end of February and goes into towards the end of March. And then Gemini, of course, is, wow, I literally just blanked. Gemini is towards the end of May to towards the end of June, and Scorpio is the end of October to beginning towards the end of November. I know my signs, guys. I have no idea what's happening. But I would pay attention because these seasons are going to be significant to you, and I am reading for tropical, not sidereal astrology. Because I refuse to be a Pisces moon, guys. So that is all I am seeing for you for your reading. You guys have beautiful energy. I am so excited for the year of 2021 for you, and I will see you later. I hope you come to visit me soon, and we'll send you guys all my love and light. Hello, my beautiful lovelies that picked pile number 2. You guys picked this gorgeous stone. I really need to find the sheets of paper for these. I generally don't remember, but you're welcome to your reading. So today we are getting into the messages that Spirit / your ancestors have for you for the year of 2021. So we're going to be going through sort of like your guiding energy, what sort of advice, what are sort of like the potentialities and like what guidance Spirit has for you. So without further ado, let's get into it. So for your guiding energy for the year, it is 6 of Wands. So I'm hearing that like Aries energy. So one of you may have Aries as either your sun, moon, or rising, but may not. Please just take this as, like double confirmation if that like applies for you. That can either be in tropical or sidereal astrology. So for the 6 of Wands energy, I'm very much like hearing like trumpets blasting, full speeds ahead. So this very strongly feels like the energy of doing. And you're going to be very much in like Mars energy. So I would look at your Mars placement in your natal chart. And then there's a progressive chart. So like if you Google like progressive chart, then you can sort of see like where your like what transits, where your Mars is right now, because your natal chart is sort of like a snapshot of like when you were born, and of course like tells you some things about yourself, but what the progressive chart does is lets you know like where those positions are as if you're your own like little solar system. And really I would look into your Mars placement in your progressive chart and then read up on that, because I feel like that's going to be like the guiding energy of you in 2021. That's a message that I'm really hearing for you. And like tapping into whether or not your Mars, for example, is like going to be in Pisces, or is in Pisces like currently, or in like Aries or Scorpio, which those are the signs that Mars has rulership of. Like really tapping into your Mars energy, because it's feeling like very yang, very very do. Like you're doing all the things this year. So that's what I'm getting as your guiding energy, which is very much, that's exciting. Let's see, you guys have gotten a lot of cards, so we'll see if... Oh, this is going to be an interesting year for you guys. We have the 10 of Wands, the 8 of Cups in reverse, the 2 of Pentacles, the 8 of Pentacles, the Ace of Pentacles, the Page of Cups, the 10 of Swords, and Temperance. See if I can... gonna continually run into this till I actually figure out my setup. Okay. I think you guys can see the cards clearly now. All right. So you have a lot of like different energies this year. I'm seeing this as like guidance for things to sort of like look out for this year. Spirit's not really revealing much about like how the year will sort of go for you, if that makes sense, but sort of like giving me like through delivering messages of like sort of like heads up and things to work for. So with Pentacles being sort of like represented strongly, a lot of like practical and material needs are being attended to. So this isn't just, I'm not really getting shown like finance energy, but like practical in its truest sense. So, like stripping things down to basics is like really what like is like one of the messages coming through for you guys. So with the 10 of Wands and the 10 of Swords, so 2 tens sort of like signifies like things coming to their natural end, and it feels like something is that you didn't expect this year is going to end, and it's not going to be easy for you to accept the fact that it's over. That's like what I'm getting. So this could be anything. So it could be sort of like, you're in school and you're due to graduate this year, and you're not really sure if you're ready for the next step of either pursuing like higher education or like moving into the work world. But it feels like a lot of hesitancy around the ending, and like that is like the strong message that I am getting for you guys, that there's like a hesitation around the ending that is being described here. And with like the 8 of Cups, it's coming like as a reluctance to walk away. So again, like it could be about you moving into stages. So it feels like you are moving into a new stage and it's happening. So it's like something that, you have very little like control over. So it could be like I really hate that this is like this message that's coming through, but it could be that like your contract's due to end and it doesn't get renewed, or you are getting pushed to, it's like I'm just getting like this job message right now, and I don't think it's gonna go away until I say it. So it could be like your contract's up, or you unexpectedly get let go, or your company downsizes, and it's sort of like that difficulty because it feels like you find like in your head this was where you were supposed to be, and right now like, and then it's just ends, and like there's a lot of hesitation in walking away, and a lot of hesitation maybe in like leaving the industry. So it could be sort of like you finished like school and thought that you're going to pursue an academia, and it could be like you don't get in, or it could be that circumstances like more practical realm, like it could be that you can't afford to do it or something like that, or like it feels like this situation that you're having difficulty letting go of is quite beyond your control. So it was not necessarily that you have like done anything in particular to cause the situation, but it very much feels with the Temperance card that is being removed from your path, because it's not where you're supposed to be sort of long term. And I say that with some hesitancy because it's not like you weren't meant to do it and not meant to explore it, because I feel like whatever situation you are in that may end, like it was very much brought to you by Spirit, but it's sort of like Spirit saying like this, like we've sort of like exhausted it and you need to move on. And that's what the 6 of Wands energy is like an energy of moving on. So it feels like the doing, it may happen towards the latter half of the year, but what I feel like the energy now having like had the information from the Temperance and the Ten of Wands and the Ten of Swords, is that this is a year of like moving on and letting go. And like if it's like a relationship or a friendship group that you may have been a part of, or a friend that you've had who you've had like tenuous relationships with, and that sort of comes to an end because like one person does something, and you're just sort of like, well, you've left me with no choice. Or, you know, like it could be literally anything. But it's just sort of like you are being called to move on with the Temperance. Um, Very much like with the two cups like being poured in and out, it's like reminding you that there's like a cycle and a season for everything, right? So it's really just sort of like about our perspective on things, right? So like with the angel here, can kind of see like the medallion as like the third eye. That's how I'm reading this card today. With the two cups being like poured in, it's like a cycle, right? And like if you're from the perspective of this cup, then you're losing things, and you're being poured out of. But like from the perspective of this cup is being filled. And so you're being called to remind that things have a reason and a season, and you won't necessarily have all the information right now. We'll see as the reading goes on, like if you will get the information as sort of like time or like the year progresses. But you won't necessarily have all the information as this thing's happening, as this thing's hesitate, as this thing is ending. And like this is why the hesitation to walk away is there. Like you won't have all the information, but you are being called to go with the flow. Go with the flow is like what I'm hearing, and it feels very much like releasing. Like I felt like my shoulders and stuff like relax, and my shoulders where I keep a lot of my like tension. So it's just very much like releasing and just being like, okay, whatever is for me can't miss me, and whatever is for you, like you will hold on to. Like there's no question about it. But this situation is being called to reach its natural conclusion, and the severity of the ending, which is being like preluded by the Ten of Wands or the Ten of Swords, which both signify like very like the Ten of Swords is like very like painstaking energy, right? Like the true energy of having all of those swords in your back and the pain from that, as well as like the Ten of Wands being like very like burdensome, like calling it like as trying to carry too much for your load, too much that you can actually like hold on to. And as a result, what's not really depicted here, but is the energy of this card, right? Is like as this person like tries to carry and tries to push forward, like things are going to fall to the wayside and things will fall apart because there is just too much happening. This person's taking up too much. So sort of like the result of the ending really depends on how much you resist it, because the more you resist it, the more painful it's going to be. And I feel like spirit will send you some signs to be like, okay, this thing has reached its natural end, its natural conclusion, it's time for you to say goodbye, right? And like if you don't necessarily recognize those signs, then like the more painful the ending will be for you, because spirit's rude. That's the simplest way to put it. But like, you know, like spirit is always looking out for spirit. Our ancestors are always looking out for our highest like good and our highest protection. And you know, like if we are in this energy of resisting, and spirit knows, it's like, okay, I've tried to be nice, like I've tried to say, hey, pile number two, you know, we've rang the bell, we've said last call, we've said you don't have to go home, but you sure as hell can't stay here. Like we've done all the things for you to realize that your time here is up, and the situation has you've gotten everything that you need to out of your situation. It's time for you to move on, you know? But it's whether or not you're in that like energy of, and I'm like picturing like Eleanor from The Good Place, like at the bar, where it's just sort of like, yeah, like I'm just gonna stay here till like whatever o'clock, and Spirit's like, okay, cool, like if you're going to resist, then I'm gonna have to play like bad cop here, and I'm going to haul you out of the situation by force. It's like, come hell or high water, you like, this situation is done, and like how like easy this out is for you depends on you, babe. So like that's very much like the dramatic ending is very much like within your control. So it very much feels like if you can recognize the signs and recognize when something's ended, then you'll know to move on, you know, because you're being called to move on, right? And like we'll often get a lot of opportunities. Hopefully that didn't, my camera flashed. So sorry about that, but we'll often get presented like a lot of opportunities and think that, you know, like each one we're meant to pursue. And then we may, because of that sort of like hesitation, but then looking at, you know, like what, and then like pursue it and get what we need out of it, but it's the holding on to it that then becomes the issue, because it could just be like, oh, this opportunity was meant for the short term. Like it could be like somebody took a job, you know, like as a temp or in an office, when their true passion is something, you know, like less constricting, less like not to say that like 9 to 5s are constricting, but as an example, where someone's always felt that constricted by 9 to 5, but circumstances like meant that they took like an office job that they weren't really passionate about, like, and gotten into marketing because it seemed like the easy out, like the easy path in, like, and they got really, and they said to themselves, I will only be here 2 years to, you know, like pay off some debts, pay off my credit card bills, like start to save some income, and then I will do like my hobby on the side and start to build like the interest in like network, and, you know, then go on to pursue these other things. So I'm hearing these other things could be like trying to make creative passion full-time, going back into full-time education. I'm hearing that somebody like, you know, never saw that their job as the be-all and end-all, but was trying to do something like adjacent, so maybe going into marketing, as I said, but is really interested in publishing and is trying to like make that headway there, by just getting their foot in the door, right? But there's something about you got too comfortable and you never moved on. Like that whole, oh, I'll like progress never happened. And it's like, of course we need to take care of like our practical needs, which is very much like, you know, the energy of like the reading was like, you needing to take care of like your practical needs this year. And of course, you know, like that is important and that's paramount. But there was something that like may have been lost sight of because of the situation. So if it pertains to like relationships, whether that be friendships or something more romantic, it could be like, okay, you just got really comfortable in the relationship and didn't recognize the way in which like you weren't being, like your space wasn't being held for you in the relationship, if that makes sense. And so like something is coming to an end, and then you're being asked to walk away and to let go of this energy, because sort of like what's happening for you, if you are able to achieve that, is this really sort of like beautiful energy of like, I see the Ace of Pentacles as an opportunity will be presented to you. So no matter what happens, like if you are able to sort of accept that, you know, like things happen for a reason and a season, then like you will be presented with a better option. And like with the Two of Pentacles, you're going to have to do like a juggling act, of course, like we are, or, you know, spiritual beings having a human experience. So there will be a juggling act at looking at, you know, like how do I, you know, like keep the tied at bay? Like, how do I keep everything sort of in balance? And, you know, like, balance out like my passions from, you know, needing to put food on the table, needing to provide for yourself or provide for your family. It's like, how do I balance out like my self-worth with the relationships that I have and the people who are around me? And it can be like, I'm not saying that this is easy at all, so I totally get your hesitation. And Spirit has kicked my ass out of many situations because I just refused to be like, things are over. It was just like, you know what, you've given me this, I'm gonna hold on to it for dear life, but you are being called to walk away because it has reached its natural ending. And with this balancing act here, it's really like helping, and because of that you're going to be in like this sort of like balancing act, and like it's really, and this balancing act is going to help you put things into perspective, like what is important to you, because when we're stripped away of something that, you know, like we like, and we think is meant for us, and when that thing suddenly goes away, like it automatically has us thinking like, oh damn, like why'd that happen? Am I not meant for this thing? And it's not that you aren't meant for it, and it's not that you aren't like meant for love or meant for career success. None of that. It's because you were meant for something greater that the situation is ending. That is the message. But there will be this sort of like juggling, like these conflicting ideas and like feelings on the back of this thing that's ending. And with this Page of Cups, like I'm feeling this energy of like emotional renewal for you guys. And so because like you sort of like begun to accept this ending, so whatever it was and whatever has come to its like natural course, and it very much feels like a situation that's out of your control, you are going to come out on the better side for it, and you on the other side better for it rather, and that's going to happen as well, like with the Eight of Pentacles. So very much like this feels like, you know, this half feels like life gives you lemons, make lemonade. And it feels like you're really just going to sit down and be like, this was the cards I was dealt. I am not happy about it, but I know that this has happened. I need to move on. Like you really being grounded by like guided by the Six of Wands energy of charging forward and doing. And it's like, this has happened. This is what I'm going to do with that information. Okay, so we will look at your oracle cards. You know, the signs just be signing. Look at what we have, full moon in Sagittarius. Look at the bigger picture. If that does not, listen, I don't look at these cards. So I would also pay attention to like when the full moon in Sagittarius is as maybe like guiding like timing principles, because I did pull these moon oracles with the intention of them being timing as well as messages. So you are being called to look at the bigger picture here. So when this thing comes to an end, and be like, take a step back and move out of that very much like space of being like, oh my gosh, why is this happening to me? And it's like, why is this happening, you know, for me? And then listen, these oracle cards, so we have no, wait, pause, say no, and dance with life, do something to change your energy. So this like very much corresponds to this like ending, and you know, saying, and like the saying no is like letting it end, you know, like not saying no to resist it. So you see like the thunderstorms, like that's going to come if you resist this ending. And like dancing with life is asking you to do something to change your energy. So recognizing that a change is going to happen because you have accepted that whatever is ending needs to end because it is working out, and an opportunity like will happen. So it may not be, you know, like similar, but it's very much a principle as one door closes, another opens, right? So like just because this relationship didn't work out, just because this career didn't work out, something else is going to happen for you. So for an example, I was dating somebody like at the beginning of like my last year of university, which is not something that I ever thought was gonna happen. And like, because things were going well at the time, I had an opportunity to go like volunteer in Nicaragua and like to learn about like sustainable coffee farming and agrotourism, and to take a real lead on that project, which ultimately helped me get like a role that I'm currently in right now. And I was strongly considering not doing it and not applying for this opportunity, even though when it was presented to me, I was like, yeah, I want to do this. And I was considering not doing it because I was in that relationship and we were long distance. And I was like, if I do this, there's a good chance that we will not be able to see each other regularly. In the latter half of the year, if things keep going how they're going, like we'll have like a couple of months, and then I will be very busy for 2 to 3 months, and we probably won't see each other. So I almost didn't. And you know what Spirit did? Spirit ended that relationship abruptly and rudely, because I was meant to go on that trip. I was meant to have that experience. So that's what I'm saying here. Like, it may not be like just because this relationship ends, another relationship opportunity will come up for you. Like, the relationship ended, it was painful, I cried, I'm not gonna like pretend I didn't. I was crying, I was heartbroken, I was pissed off. I was really pissed off. and then like, it's with the perspective of knowing like, okay, I wouldn't have moved countries, I wouldn't have done this if I was in this relationship, because I, at that time, was very much focused on doing everything that I could to make romantic relationships work, right? So it's not going to be that sort of like, oh, this relationship ends, another you're going to have the opportunity to do. But it will make sense, and I'm getting that it will make sense. I'm hearing like a year or two from now. So you may not get the clarity in 2021. The way that you can get the clarity in 2021 is like building a relationship with guide and spirit, and really working on those like connections and those connectivity, with your spirit guides and with spirit itself. So you can recognize those signs as they happen and be like, okay, this is the information that I'm being given. And just because this new opportunity comes, or just because I had this opportunity, I don't need to go down every single path, because I feel like you will get other things that crop up, and you're really being called to use your sort of discernment. So it's just not on the, I feel like for some of you who've picked pile number 2, because this thing has ended and because you were so hesitant and you did not want it to end, you are, as things sort of like crop up opportunity wise, you're going to want to leap at it and be like, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be. But you're still being asked to use your discernment, which is where the no is coming to. So it's like really calling on you to wait. And really calling on you to take the time to consult with your guides, consult with your higher self, like really use your intuition and be like, am I jumping at this opportunity because this situation that I didn't want to end ended? Right? Like, that's the question that you need to be asking, because it's all calling you to look at the bigger picture. And that's like the overall energy that I'm getting for you guys for this year. I just want to read the Dance with Life, the full message for you guys, because I feel like it will be just confirming. So we have Dance with Life, do something to change your energy. Life is always moving. If you resist this ever-changing flow, your energy will become stagnant and you will fall out of flow with the universe. The universe has a mysterious, intelligent force, a natural rhythmic beat, which governs all of life. One of the best ways to shift your energy, frequency, and vibration is to put on some music and dance along with it. When we dance unrestrained, our spirit takes over, and with each new bop, sway, and kick, we are rocked back into harmony with the rest of life. Get unstuck by doing something that shifts your vibration. Put on some music, dance unrestrained, and fall into the frequency of life. In doing so, your body will begin to learn how to be moved by your intuition, which is connected with the systemic beat. If dancing isn't your thing, then simply do something that you would not usually do to shift the energy. You cannot solve a problem with the same mind that created it, and you cannot attract a different experience without changing your energy first. It's time to shift things up and to find a way to dance along with the beat of life. hopefully the camera was still recording. But wow, what a confirmation. Like, again, like you are, and that's very much what the Six of Wands energy to guide your year is, that doing, like you need to do something different, because it's going to help you get unstuck, because there's a huge potential for when this thing ends for you to get stuck, right? And you're being asked not to do that, but to dance. Like I'm imagining like Christina and Meredith from Grey's Anatomy, and how they would always like dance it out, and that was, you know, like when they're feeling overwhelmed and being like very much of that mentality and say like, okay, we cannot do anything because we are deep in anger, we're deep in sorrow, we're deep in grief, we just need to let it go. So that's what an energy, guys. And then we have wedding in reverse. So this situation involves marriage. So this, what I was not picking up any sort of love messages for you guys. So what this situation involves marriage is really like saying to me is that there's going to be a marrying of your physical reality as well as your spiritual reality this year. And this is what, like, looking at the bigger picture and all of these messages are really conveying for you. So, all right, my lovelies, that is, oh, almost forgot. Ignore me. So for the last part of your reading, I am going to be pulling some like timing or like sign cards, and we'll see what sort of comes up for you if I can manage to knock over everything. See, I want to get 4 for you guys. Let's do one more. Oh, 4 came up. Look at that. So we have 4, 9, 55, and 1. So you guys got a lot of numerology coming up. So I would pay attention to these numbers and look up the numerology of 4, 55, and 1, and 9, and knowing that like any sort of like repeating 4s or 5s or 1s or 9s is going to be a sign from spirit for you this year. As well as any sort of combination of this. So like if you look at the clock and see like 4:19 or 9:14 or 9:41 or 9:55 or something, try and remember like what you're thinking about, and that will be a guide, but also like look up the angel number meanings for these numbers as guidance for you guys. So that is actually all I'm seeing for your message today, my lovelies. Thank you so much for letting me read for you, and wishing you all the love and light. Hello, my lovely pile number 3s. Welcome to your reading. So you guys picked this stone here. So today's reading, we are going to get into all about your 2021. So what energies is around you right now, like sort of what your overview of your 2021 is, what sort of guidance and advice Spirit has for you for the year ahead. And then we're going to sort of channel some important times or numerology depending on what comes out for you. So without further ado, let's get into your reading. So to start, as your supporting energy, you have the Temperance. Oh, what beautiful energy to be in. So you are being called to really be wary of balance with what I'm seeing. I feel like you may have a potential to swing from one sort of like extreme to the other, and that happens to like the best of us given like circumstances, but you're really being called this year and being guided to find a balance. And like that's going to be sort of like the guiding principle of you this year is like balance and like balancing. So Temperance card is also 14. So I would look into the numerology of 14. 4 is a very supportive number. 1, you know, also very like strong, what am I trying, like 1 is also very like important numerology wise, you know, as being like the first sort of like the foundation. 4 is like a number of like foundation as well. And then 4 can be broken down into 4 ones, which we often see with like the 4 in tarot. So yeah, that really very much feels like the energy and the guiding sort of principle of this year for you is, how do I stay in balance, and what sort of like balance means to you. Like some of you may be doing like some meditation with Headspace. They have a whole balance series, so that could be a benefit to you, and figuring out like what is your balance, because balance isn't doing everything, right? And it's just sort of like, what are the things that you are called to do, and that keep you in balance, if that makes sense. So it's really about breaking down like not sort of everything that's like in your life and all your relationships, but breaking down the important things, and being like, okay, how do I keep these in balance? Like, how do I keep my spiritual practice in balance with like my physical needs? How do I manage like my career in a way that doesn't jeopardize my mental health, and my overall wellness? Like, how do I stay away from extremes? Because that's what I'm very much feeling for you guys. You're being called to stay away from this year, because you have a tendency to go to extremes, and it may not feel like an extreme to you because you're used to being in this energy of being in flux, and like being in one position and then all of a sudden having that changing, and that, you know, like the year we had in 2020, understandable, but I feel like this sort of like condition for you existed before we had 2020, where it's just sort of like watching the pendulum swing, and you may not even realize you're doing it because you have existed in this energy for a while. And because you've existed in this energy for a while, when you're at one extreme, it doesn't feel like an extreme for you because you've done it so much, it feels normal. And being that sort of middle ground, that feels like the extreme to you for some of you. Okay, so you're being called to stay in balance. So let's see what we have for you. So we have 2 of Cups. We have Daughter of Swords. We have 4 of Cups. We have 8 of Discs. Oh, there's another one behind it. 2 of Pentacles. The Magician and the Wheel of Fortune. With circle cards, it's really hard. Oh, and we also have 9 of Cups. A lot of cup energy. So I feel like that some of you may have a water sign rising, or a water sign Venus or Mars. So water sign is Scorpio, Pisces, or Cancer. So if you have those positions, those placements in either your rising, your Venus sign, or your Mars sign, then just take this message as like double confirmation. I'm gonna have to like slot things in and out because it's a lot harder to get everything in the frame when it's a circle. So just right off the bat, seeing a lot of 2s, 8s, and 4s. So a lot of numbers that require like balance, and that speaks to sort of like dualities and the many different factions. So I'm feeling like the energy of this year is asking you to attend to your emotional space and your emotional well-being, which is why you're being called to figure out what balance is for you and what's like to sort of stay in balance is, and means for you. Okay, so with the two of dis, or the two of pentacles and the two of cups here, what I'm really seeing the two twos as, you know, that balance and having that duality, and sort of like there's two sides to every single story. But with the two of pentacles, what's really striking about this image is that this person is holding two sort of babies or infants, and so it's really being with the temperance being sort of your guiding force for this year. You're being asked, like, in what ways can you mother yourself, right? Like, what are the ways in which you can take care of yourself this year to bring things into harmony. So with the Four of Cups, I feel like this is the energy that you are in right now, and you're being called to move out of it. So it feels like you're teetering on the edge in a lot of aspects, and that could be because you have taken on, quite frankly, too much for yourself. And you know, like, you're used to running at like 140%. And you know, maybe your life has slowed down because of like the events of the pandemic, but you're still existing in this energy of, oh, because you have this free time, you know what, because you're not commuting anymore, or you're not really leaving the house anymore, then you're thinking like, oh, I'm going to learn 5 new languages, I'm going to learn how to cook everything from scratch, I'm going to learn how to code, I'm going to learn all these new skills, because I have the time now. And so that could be for some of you where, like, even though you've slowed down in other areas, and like the areas that you're used to going full speed ahead in, you are you've transferred that energy to other areas of your life. And I feel like it's very like scattered mentally for you, which is why you're being called to focus on your emotional health. Like, I have had to stop and start this reading a few times now, because I just quite simply can't get my thoughts together, and I'm very much feeling like that's your energy, where your brain is sort of like racing at all times, and it's very much like you're in this energy of, oh, I always need to be doing something, and you're being called this year to sit in your yin energy, or your more feminine energy. And again, like, energies don't relate to gender, so you're more like receptive energy, or being asked to stay still, and to figure out, like, not how to do, or to you see, like, my words are getting jumbled, but figuring out for you how to stay still, and what does not doing look like for you, right? As I feel like you have learned how to rest in some ways, but this feels very superficial. It feels like you've learned to rest because the things that you would normally be doing, you aren't anymore, and you haven't really incorporated that lesson of rest and balance into your life in a very like functional or operational capacity, so that you can sort of take that wisdom and move forward with it. And that's what the Temperance card is really asking you to do, right? With this energy for this year, and being like the guiding principle. So the Temperance card is asking you, like, hey, how do you stay in balance? How do you walk this line? And that's why I said at the beginning, like, it's not about like doing everything that you were doing before. That's not the answer. That is not where you're going to find the balance. It's not, how do I learn 4 languages at once? How do I meditate? How do I start a fitness routine? How do I do my job? How do I manage my caring responsibilities for others? How do I manage my caring responsibilities for my friend? How do I maintain being a good friend? How do I maintain being a good, you know, partner? How do I maintain being a good family member? Like, it's not about doing all of those things. It's about figuring out what at your core is important to you. What are the things that you want to bring into balance? Because I feel like you've been running at like 110%, and you're used to doing like 1,010%. Actually, I don't feel like 110% encapsulates how much energy and like vivaciousness you have. But you're used to doing all of that, but you're not being called to figure out how you make everything work. It's how do you make less things work, right? And with the 2s and the 4s and the 8s, like, it's really asking you to even like reach out for support in other ways, because I feel like it's been offered to you, and because you're used to sort of like going it alone, you just don't reach back when a support's offered to you, and you see it as sometimes as like a sign of weakness as accepting support. That's what I'm getting. And like I remember seeing a tweet where somebody was talking about, oh, their therapist said that, you know, being fiercely independent isn't a sign of strength, it's a trauma response. So what are the ways, if that, you know, resonates with you, what are the ways in which like you had to count on yourself for everything because others weren't showing up for you? And is that the cause of this fierce independence streak? And is that the cause of this balancing act? You know, and I'm not trying, someone was like, oh, how drag me. I'm not trying to drag you because, you know, to be very honest, I'm dragging myself here too. But, you know, these are the questions that you need to ask and reflect upon, because you're being called to put yourself in balance, and really just sit down and like listen to yourself and what is actually important to you. So I'm hearing like somebody may be okay with like recondoing like their life, and this is just as an example, you know, like this isn't an endorsement of minimalism, but you know, that principle of like holding something and being like, does this bring me joy? And there needs to be sort of an audit of your life in that particular way, and being like, does this actually bring me joy? Why do I want to do this? So every single time where you're being called to or you want to do this, you want to do that, you need to take a step back and ask yourself why. Like really just sit down and say, why do I want to do this? And is it because you think you should be doing something? Because thinking you should be doing something is not a reason to do something. And the hardest lesson for people who like to go at like 1,010% is learning how to be still, and still in its truest sense, where it's not being like, oh, like you may be watching TV, but yet in the back of your mind you're thinking about your to-do list. Or you're like, oh yeah, like I'll spend time with, you know, a loved one, but then you end up talking about things that you do, or you know, like your plans, instead of just sort of like being. Or you're like, oh, while I'm here, I might as well like cook or do something else. So you're really asking to be present. Oh, that's what it is. And that's what we have with the magician here. So it's about like, you know, like you can see from this image, this magician is really standing in, you know, like their power. They're doing a lot of things, but you see, it's not an overwhelming energy, it's a calmness. It's like calmness because the magician has also received like achieved balance. So you see the way the image is like laid out. So you've got like the corners just each balancing the other out, and the magician's able to do it all because they've decided, I'm not going to do it all. I'm going to do the things that are important to me, and I can manage everything because I have, you know, the tools and resources available to me, right? So it's like one arm's doing one thing, the other's doing another, one foot's doing something else, another foot is doing something else. This magician didn't grow 10 extra feet or 20 arms to bring everything into balance. The magician's very much like aware of their abilities and limitations. And I'm reminding of that quote where it's like, person who says this was like, a wise man who knows his limitation has none. And like I'm reading this in the most gender neutral way as possible, but that's what you're being called, is like recognize your limitations and play within it. Like if you're from Ontario, like our lottery things, like know your limit, play within it. And that's what the energy you're really being called to do, and is really step out of this like, oh, teetering and trying to sort of keep everything going, but really like say, okay, what is important to me? Why do I want to do something? And if it's, you're a spirit call instead of like a mental call, then of course go for it. But if it's more so like, I need to keep, busy because I feel like I need to be doing something because I've always done something, and rest isn't comfortable for me. Because with rest comes stillness, and with stillness comes confronting yourself. And it feels like at times you got used to doing so much so that you wouldn't have to be with yourself in certain ways and not ask yourself the hard questions, right? And it's like learning, okay, like how, do I ask myself the hard questions? And I'm not saying that you don't, enjoy being by yourself or that. You don't, like you aren't self-reflective, but it feels like there is something you can go deeper. But because you've been in this energy of like, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, it's prevented you actually from going deeper. And that's like what, this balance is asking you to do. That's why these like cups are present. And it's asking you to go deeper. And like allow yourself to go deeper, not be like sort of hesitant to do it, because there's always more to uncover, right? Like with an ocean, with a body of water, and even with this pool here, right? We think we know how deep it can go, but we're not going to know until we dive in. And there's that feeling of like, you need to just like dive in, and like reach the depths. And with this Nine of Cups, like by bringing things into balance, you are very much going to be in this like energy of emotional sort of like fulfillment, because you will have achieved clarity on what is important to me. Like pile number 3, like that rhymed. But it's like, what is important to me? What are the things that I want to keep in balance? And yes, everything's like a nice idea, but you see this person doing a backbend is able to do like full wheel pose because they've worked on it, because they have had the discipline to concentrate on opening up their back, like able to do handstand because they have taken the time to build their arm strength to hold that position. You see, we have a person here that's just lying down because they are like, hey, I don't need to do all that, like I'm gonna be good all over here by myself. So you're being called to tap into these many areas of yourself. And I feel like you're so used to being in your yang energy, and you may have strong cardinal placements as a result of that, or be a cardinal sign yourself, and cardinal signs are Capricorn, Aries, Cancer, and Libra. And so I would say that those would be like predominantly as a confirmation, like your rising sign would be a cardinal, but it could be for any of your big 3 placements. So like I very much feel like for you, you're used to being in your yang energy. That's what's comfortable for you. And that's where this sort of like Daughter of Swords, if you'll let me touch it, this Daughter of Swords is like symbolizing like this is the energy you're used to being in, like this very much like warrior-esque, like I'm going to manifest a twister above my head, like battle this call this like horse spirit, battle the wind, all from this mountain. And it's been very lonely for you, right? But you're really being asked to sit in this energy so that other people can help you and you can be surrounded. Because even with sort of like that comment I made about like just let me touch you, I feel like people want to get close to you, but because you've kept yourself busy and you've kept yourself unavailable, and I feel like for some of you it may have been a protection where it's like if you're busy, if you're doing things, then you logically can be emotionally unavailable. Like you logically already have a built-in barrier, so you don't have to do not only the work of going deeper like within yourself with this like Nine of Cups energy here, but you don't have to do the work of connecting. And it's like you're used to, not to say that your relationships may be like surface level, but like a medium depth at best, and you may not have let or gone really like full into a relationship. And I'm talking about like platonic, I'm talking about familial, I mean like really diving in, because like people can only meet you as far as you've met yourself, right? And like if you have been keeping yourself busy and not really even exploring the depths of your own emotional like well-being and like your own psyche, how deep can you expect your relationships to go if you don't fully know yourself, if you haven't embraced like everything about yourself? So this is sort of like the call um for this year for you. So you're being called to keep things in balance, and with the Eight of Disc or the Eight of Pentacles, to really like take the time to work on it, and to work on it with others, right? Like this feels like you're going to be trying it with like in a relationship that's important to you, and a relationship that's important to you that you may not have always taken the time for. And that can be excuse me, almost sneezed. So it's like that can be, and I feel like that got triggered as like a confirmation from spirit, because I have not been sneezing at all like regularly. So like the relationship, like there are some important relationships to you, and it could be like with a family member where like they raised you or they were sort of around you, but like you never really sort of dove deep into who they are as people, or how they respond outside of their role to you, right? So it could be like a parent or an aunt, or a cousin, and you're like, okay, like I know this person as like a protector in my life, but like I don't really know much about them outside of that, because they've been sort of like, their focus has always been on taking care of me. So with the Wheel of Fortune here, like very much feels like by doing this thing, and you're really being called to do it with these like major arcana cards, like you're going to bring yourself within alignment, and that in itself is going to benefit you profoundly. Like it's not like spirit doesn't even want to talk to me about, or talk to you rather, about like the potential of like what could happen and the ways in which your life could change, because it shouldn't be about that. It should be about like your own like mental well-being should be the focus. And it's like, because you on some level know that the way in which you've been operating is not sustainable, and it's not like the healthiest. So you're really being asked to focus on your health, by spirit this year, by figuring out, okay, what's important and what are the ways that I can strip back my life and be in this receptive energy and meet myself deeply. So that we're going to look at your oracle cards. Wow, like all the oracle cards this reading have been so confirming. So your hard work is paying off, new moon in Capricorn. Let's do close-ups. You're already doing it. Stop overthinking. Keep facing your true north. And leap, you go first. The universe will catch you. So with leap, and you're already doing it, and with the new moon in Capricorn, your hard work is taking awe. I'm very much getting these as messages for when you start to do this work, when you start to ask yourself, how do I achieve better and greater balance in my life? I would also look at when the new moon in Capricorn is for 2021. I also pulled these like moon oracle cards as sort of like timing guidance, as excuse me, as a sort of like awareness, or just to punctuate when important things could be happening to you as it pertains to this message, but it could be for other things as well. So seeing as you start to do this like work and start to ask yourselves these questions, you're going to reap the reward. It's not going to be a slow sort of delay from reaping the like emotional and like physical and spiritual benefits of bringing yourself into balance, but like you're going to see the results very quickly. Like it's not going to take much time, and with you're already doing it, and leap, asking by doing like the balance exercise and doing that, because it's been something sitting in your yin energy, may feel uncomfortable for a lot of you. The universe is asking you, and spirit is asking you to trust, right? That doing this work, and you're not being asked to do this work like frivolously. You're being asked to do this work because it is of great benefit to you. And with you're already doing it, you're being asked to, of course, like stop overthinking and keep facing your true north. So that's slowing down, and you're only going to be able to face your true north when you understand what is fundamentally important to you. So I just want to read the oracle message for in full for you already doing it. So it says here, do not question things so much. You are on the right track. You are facing the right way. Stop overthinking it. It's happening, and you are closer than you think. You're exactly where you need to be, and things are moving at perfect speed. Do not rush it. Now is not the time to be impatient. Now is the time to walk steady. There is no rush. What you are building is being built. What you have planted soon will blossom. With every new day, a brick is being laid. You have come a long way. The foundations are steady. Now all is needed for you is to trust and keep walking forward. If you thought that things should be moving faster, enters your head, that is just your ego comparing your rising to someone else. Comparison is not your friend. Stay in your lane, water your own garden, knowing that your time to bloom will soon come. So very much, that's why you're being called to be in this yin energy of this year. Like, you are doing amazing, and like this capacity to be in your yang energy and to be doing is not like something that, was holding you back. And it's very much one of your strengths, right? But you're being called to do, like, to try and balance yourself out, because there's just a tendency for you to go too hard in that direction. And it's when you can be in this yin energy, you can start to see the ways in which that you've already accomplished your goals. You've already like manifested the thing. But if you don't take the time to sit back and to appreciate the things, then there's always going to be something to chase after, right? And it's like, we can be ambitious, but what we can also be ambitious to our own detriment. So there is definitely a call here to sit back and to recognize the ways in which you have already achieved. Like, that's the message. Like, you've already achieved so much, but you also haven't taken the time to appreciate it. And because of like your youth, because you're so used to being in your yang energy, like, this year is sort of cautioning you so that you don't continue down this like path of overindulging in that one aspect of your life, which is where you're being called to bring yourself into balance. Because like, if we're constantly just in one sort of energy, we're out of whack, we're out of alignment. It's a lot easier for us to out of align or to misalign with our purpose, and to go down like wrong paths because we're not listening to our intuition, because we're like blocked, right? And then on just like a physical note, then like, being in the yang energy can produce a lot of like undue stress, not only mentally, but a lot of things that are mental and are the mind have physical manifestations. And dying because of stress related illnesses is very real. So this is like a cautionary like message from spirit, being like, you need to find balance, because like balance is going to help you achieve, right? And balance is going to help you appreciate, because this feels like a very healing year for you. And with love oracles, so I did like pick up like quite sort of strongly that there is a true potential for a romantic situation to come in, and this is only if you're interested in romantic situations. There are people who are aromantic, and this sort of thing may not be of interest. But if you are interested in romantic relationships or even partnership generally, which doesn't just pertain to romantic situations, like, I feel like there is a real potential for that to happen this year. And so that can be with like friends, if you are already coupled up, and like, deepening these bonds, as I alluded to into the that earlier message. But this feels like a healing year, so healing family issues, when we talked about that trauma response, right? So like, your love life benefits as you forgive your parents, but even broadening that, your love life and your life benefits as you forgive yourself, as you forgive and generations that come before you, because it feels like you are breaking a lot of generational curses by the work that you've accomplished. But you can do a lot more by really like diving deep within yourself and addressing the trauma that you may have that feels sort of unresolved and may be contributing to why you are so comfortable in yang energy and not so much in yin. And so with keeping an open mind, Spirit is just like with the Leap card. Spirit is asking you to trust. And so trust that you're not being called to do this like without reason or frivolously. But same thing when like people start to present yourselves in your life who may, naturally be in this yin energy. And, as somebody who's more like yang orientated, like you're like, oh, I gravitate towards like more doers, right? And somebody who's more passive isn't really my speed. But what could they teach you, right? Like what is their comfort with ease going to help you on this journey of achieving balance? And with You Deserve Love, what I'm really seeing that is that there is a potential for somebody to come through this year who is going to love you, right? And is going to sort of like help you heal in those ways. And like be more, act as a confirmation of things that you already know as it pertains to yourself with love. So thinking about things like you are lovable, you are deserving of like a partnership or a friendship in which like your needs are taken into account, in which your emotional well-being is taken into account. And that's what I am really, really feeling for you guys. So again, like, you're not doing anything sort of like wrong, but you're just being asked by Spirit this year to bring yourself into balance. And so I'm just going to pull out some like timing / sign messages from Spirit. Let's see. All right, so we have Aries, which is apt given how much yang energy we were talking about. Aries is ruled by Mars. We have Capricorn, and we have Aquarius. So really the first half of the year feels very significant for you guys. So I wrote these out as like seasons that are going to be significant. So it's not to say that nothing will happen to you for the rest of the year, but these are the seasons that you really want to be paying attention to for signs from Spirit and for confirmations of things. Like everything's really dependent on you doing this work, but that's what you're being called to do this year. So I would listen if I were you. So Aries season is so towards the end of March to end of March to end of April. This is in tropical. I'm not reading sidereal astrology. Capricorn season we're in currently, so that's in from end of December to like end of January. So that could also be Capricorn season at like the end of the year as well. So end of 2021, so looking in the latter half of December as well as currently. And then Aquarius season will be sort of like end of January to February. So those are seasons that to look out for. And for numerology, so 1111. So whenever you see that, like know that you are supported. I'm pretty sure that corresponds to Archangel Michael. So that feels like that's one of your guides for this year, or a strong presence in sort of delivering this message to you. And then 10. So looking out for 10 as well, and 10, also in tarot like symbolizes like endings, so like the ending is really sort of like in your control here, but you are being called to bring in balance. So if you see like 1110 or 1011, also see that as confirmation, or 1010 or 1111. So that is all I am seeing for you, my lovely pile number 3s. Thank you so much for letting me read for you, and I will see you next time with all my love and light.